Hello. So today the topic is about cellular messengers and receptors. So to get an idea about cellular messengers and their receptors, we need to have an idea about the hormones, how they act. So for an example, I'll tell you. Like suppose this is a cell. Okay, this is a cell, and on the cell membrane we have a receptor, and this is the nucleus. On the nucleus also we have receptor. We will study about it, like the types of hormones that act directly on the cell membrane receptor, and the other one that act on the nucleus. So firstly, suppose that this is an hormone. Okay, now it has two ways to go. Firstly, that it directly acts on the cell membrane receptor, so the effect would of course would be on the nucleus only, so it will release a second messenger that would act on the nucleus. And the second type of hormone would be that would cross the cell membrane and directly act on the nucleus. So these are the two types by which the hormone can act. Okay, so here, this thing only I have written that hormones can be of two types. First, that which can cross the cell membrane. So, of course, that the as I said that can cross the cell membrane. That these act on the receptors inside the cell only, and they directly influence the cell function. The second one is the type that do not cross the cell membrane. They act on the receptor present on the cell membrane, and thus they release the second messenger. And through the when they release the second messenger, that second messenger act and that influence the cell function. Now we have the classification of hormones. Classification according to the substance that it is made of. The of what thing, like the amino acid, protein, what the hormone consists of. Okay, so we have the first one, amino acid derivatives. Over here, amino acid derivatives, we have single amino acid is required in it. Okay, so according to like which amino acid it is, it depends upon that. Okay, so the first one we have is amino acid. It requires single amino acid is required for it. The first one we have is tyrosine. Tyrosine, with this amino acid, these hormones are synthesized, which are T3, T4, and catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine. These all are made up of this amino acid tyrosine. Okay, so this was the first one. Then, with the help of tryptophan amino acid, we have two hormones that are synthesized with this amino acid, that are serotonin 5-HT and melatonin. Then we have the third amino acid, arginine. The hormone nitric oxide is made up of arginine amino acid. Now the second type we have is the peptide hormone. Sorry for that. Just a second. The second type is that we have is the peptide or the protein hormone. For that, of course, that the protein, they consist of many amino acid. Many amino acid combine to form peptide or protein hormone. Okay, so what the protein hormone actually is, it is a combination of many amino acids. Now, say for an example, we have insulin. Insulin, it is made up of 51 amino acid, and the second one we have is parathormone. That is, it is made up of 84 amino acids. 84 amino acids, they combine, they form a protein, and with it the hormone is formed. Okay, so as I told you in the first place, that these hormones are of two types, that they either they cross the cell membrane or they do not cross the membrane. So these peptide hormones, they do not cross the cell membrane. Okay, so when they do not cross the cell membrane, of course what would happen, that they would require a extracellular receptor for that. See, suppose this is a cell. When the hormone comes, this can't cross the cross the cell membrane, so it would need an extracellular receptor, so that it can act on the nucleus. Okay, then we have the third type, that is the cholesterol derivatives. Now cholesterol, as you know, the lipid, it can it can, of course, they can cross the cell membrane. So when they cross the cell membrane, they would act on the intracellular receptor. They won't need any extracellular receptor. So these are mainly steroid hormones. These are aldosterone, cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Okay, so these all are cholesterol derivatives, and they act on the intracellular receptors. They don't need any extracellular receptors. Means they would directly act on the nucleus or cytoplasmic. Means they would like in intracellular we have two kind of receptor, like cytoplasmic and the nuclear. And so any one of them would they need. The fourth type we have is the vitamins. Vitamin A and D act as an hormone. They are fat soluble. So of course fat soluble, they would cross the cell membrane. So they will also act on the intracellular receptors. This was about the hormone, like what thing the hormone is made up of. Okay, like the amino acid we have seen, protein we have seen, cholesterol, vitamins. Okay, about all that. Now the second thing we have is the receptors. Okay, how the hormone that we have studied, it acts on the receptor. So receptor we have of two kinds, like the extracellular receptor that I have told and the intracellular receptors. The first, now these receptors, these we will study differently, extracellular and intracellular. Okay, so firstly the extracellular, these all are the extracellular. The first one is G protein coupled receptor, tyrosine kinase receptor, Janus kinase receptor, and the pathway it follows is JAK-STAT. We will study about it. Okay, now the first receptor which we have to study is GPCR. It is very important. GPCR. Now it is called as 7 transmembrane receptor. Why it is called as 7 transmembrane? It will go through the cell membrane 7 times. Select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At such 7 times it would go through the cell membrane. It is an extracellular receptor. Where it would be found? It would be found on the cell membrane. Okay. So this one I have covered. It is also called as 7 transmembrane receptor. 7 transmembrane. So you can remember the name by this also serpentine receptor. Hmm? Cell membrane receptor. Now it has 3 subunits: alpha, beta, and gamma. So the alpha subunit it is the most important. Why? Because it has GTPase activity. Okay, now for GPCR activation, alpha subunit gets separated from the beta and gamma. From alpha subunit it gets separated from the beta and the gamma subunit. So because of it, what happens that GPase is activated. Like alpha subunit, suppose this is alpha, beta and gamma subunit. Okay, now this alpha subunit it gets separated from the beta and the gamma. So GTPase would be activated, and what would it lead to? It would lead to the hydrolysis of GTP. Hydrolysis of GTP would occur, and that is the energy source. And what would it lead to? It would lead to the downstream action of the hormones. This is that diagram only. GPCR. Okay, the hormone it acts and it releases a second messenger. When hormone binds to GPCR, this is the whole process that I have explained, that how it binds and it releases a second messenger into the cell because it can't cross the cell membrane. Now the second messengers, these are all the second messengers. The cell, in the cell when it has entered, it will release what? Second messenger. So these second messengers, these are CAMP, okay, calcium and CGMP. So now, according to it, we will first see the alpha subunit. Its type. So we have the first one, that is the alpha stimulatory. Alpha stimulatory. What will it do? It will stimulate adenyl cyclase. That would what it will do. It will increase CAMP. Stimulation. Whenever there is cause of stimulation, it would increase CAMP. And when it is inhibitory, it would inhibit adenyl cyclase, and so thus it would decrease CAMP. Then we have the third one, that is alpha Q. Okay, it acts on the calcium, it increases calcium. Then the alpha T, through transduction, it activates enzyme phosphodiesterase that in turn decreases CGMP. Okay, it decreases CGMP through the activation of enzyme phosphodiesterase. Now the first one, like as we have studied over here, that we have three messengers, 3 second messengers, CAMP, calcium, and CGMP. So the first one, CAMP, first second messenger. Okay, so CAMP we have, it is used for, like, in two types, either for the electrolyte secretion or for the water resorption. How it is used? In the vessel, like suppose for the water resorption, the vasopressin, it is a hormone. Okay, it is a hormone. It would act on the receptor, and that would release it. That would release CAMP, and of course that would cause an action. Okay, so this is a hormone, vasopressin. For water resorption, it would act on the V2 V2 receptor. Okay, V2 receptor, it would increase also to release second messenger CAMP, and that to act on the cell. Okay, so these are present in the collecting duct. See, this is only explained when vasopressin binds to the V2. This is a hormone. This is the receptor. When it binds to the receptor, second messenger is released. Okay. After that, what would happen? This is the action, formation of aquaporin, and because of that, what would happen? There would be water resorption in it. Now, the second condition when we use it is when CAMP is used. It is a pathological, now physiological. Okay, so toxins, it increase CAMP. For an example, we have the cholera toxin, cholera toxin, and it produces toxin. Okay, so there is always, see, it is never ever physiological. It is always pathological, that there would be in the electrolyte secretion is increased through it. So of course, what will happen when cholera toxin, it would increase CAMP, and because of that there would be loss of NaCl in the stool, and with the help of pertussis toxin, that whooping cough. Okay, so there would be loss of electrolyte in sputum. Now we have second messenger, that is calcium, and the third, that is CGMP. So firstly, calcium. Calcium is used when when there is a case of contraction or vasoconstriction. Okay, so this hormone, oxytocin, it would act on the receptor, and that would lead to contraction, where in uterus, in the case of normal labor, we say. Now the second case, when there is vasoconstriction, again we have the hormone vasopressin. It would act on the V1 receptor. Okay, it is acting on V1. Over here it is acting on the V2 receptor. When there is the case of water resorption, vasopressin would act on the V2. Okay, and the second case, when there is a case of vasoconstriction, it would act on V1 receptor. Now the third chemical messenger, second messenger we have is the CGMP. CGMP, whenever there is relaxation, vasodilation, there is a role of CGMP. Okay, so these are the hormones that act through it, that is the nitric oxide and the natriuretic peptide. And these are its types. Now these are the other remaining cell membrane receptors that we have. The first one we have is the tyrosine kinase receptor. Its example is insulin and growth factor. So what it says, the hormone, it act on this receptor. Okay, growth factor, food factor, okay, insulin growth factor, and platelet derived growth factor, they act through this receptor. The second one we have is genus kinase receptor. The twin hormones, growth hormone and prolactin, they act through this receptor. Then we have erythropoietin, JAK2. It increases RBSC. They all act through genus kinase receptor. Now there's sometimes when there's a down regulation of the receptor. When it happens when the receptors are destroyed, internalization. What it means internalization? Receptors would go inward and then it would be destructed. So what it causes? Internalization, receptors are destroyed. Second is inactivation. Inactivation, when suppose then there is an increase in the hormone, so there would be inactivation of the receptor. The hormone is too much. The third one is desensitization. Receptors become less responsive. These all cases are mainly when their hormone is too much in the blood. Now these all were the extracellular receptor. Means extracellular, as I said, that act on the cell membrane. Intracellular, that act on the nucleus or on in the cytoplasm. This is not a lengthy portion, so the directly we can say the cytoplasmic receptors. Okay, in cytoplasm, these all receptors, mineralocorticoid, glucocorticoid, androgen receptor, and progesterone receptors, these are present in the cytoplasm. At the last, we can say that these hormones, when they act in the cytoplasm, they have as receptors. At the last, they have to act in the nucleus only. So we can say, oh, yeah, receptors are present in the cytoplasm. Once the hormone binds to the receptor, hormone complex have to be formed and it would act on the nucleus only. Okay, see, suppose the hormone and the receptor its complex has been formed, but at the last they would have to act on the nucleus only. It moves to the nucleus only. Okay, that's it. Thank you.